We're super excited that you guys are here. If you're here for the first time today, welcome. We're so glad and happy you're here, and you're for sure definitely in for a treat.
Yep.
So can we just take a minute to, I know we're all excited. I am. I feel my heart beating. I think it's going to come out. And if I was right now one of those cartoons, you will see it going like boom, 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 because that's how I feel inside. Why? For many reasons. Just to see you all here. I get excited when, when you are serving a meal all the time, but all of a sudden you're bringing like the fanciest of food that we're going to taste and savor, and the quality of it, and you're just excited that everyone's going to eat from that. So you guys are in for an amazing treat today. So let's just settle down. Put your feet on the ground, and I just want you to take 1 second to look around you. Absorb the room. Be present. I know many have had a long week. Many of us have things going on in our head. We left home. We're here for a good part of the day today. You owe yourself this time. You woke up, you got ready, you all look amazing, so you're here. So be present. So bring your presence, fully intentional. I love that word, intentionality, because intentionality makes us slow down to be intentional. You cannot love, I always tell my husband, we cannot love in a hurry. There's no way you can love and appreciate life in a hurry. There's so much that goes by you when you're in a hurry that you don't even see it. Sometimes I leave my house, and when I'm not intentional, did I close the garage door? And sometimes I have to call a neighbor or my mom that lives nearby. Mom, can you go see if I close the garage door? I don't know, because I was not intentional that morning. So I'm glad you're here. Let's be intentional. So let's take a deep breath and release it out. Let's do it again. Shake your body. Shake it, shake it. So, do you have anything to say?
No.
Okay. So.
I usually don't. Did you close the garage door? Did you close?
I did.
Did you close the garage
He
door?
left. I left last, and I did. I make sure I was very intentional this morning. So, like many times we have speakers come to Hope4Life, which is very amazing. And many of them have all these lists of things that you can say harbor, professor, or this, or doctor. And I think all those things are wonderful. And I think people work hard for those titles, and they're amazing. And I get very impressed with that. But I would like to introduce today's speaker, which is amazing. And I got to meet her 2 days ago, and we spent some time together, and yesterday for dinner too. So I want to introduce her for what I saw, not for all the things that she's done in her life that you all can read in her book. You all can read in her bio, which is amazing. But I want to introduce you what I saw. I want to introduce today our speaker, an amazing woman. She came with her family, her son, and her son's 6 years old. And what I saw was a very amazing, present, intentional mother. I saw a very amazing wife. Thinking, wait, let me text my husband just to let him know we arrived, because he came in at a later flight. Super, super, super relatable, down to earth, And she has so much to communicate, but at a level that my simple brain could understand. So everything she was saying, nothing of what she said, I had to be like, wait a minute, let me rewind, and can you repeat that again? Because you just lost me. She said so much with so much humility, love, and grace. So I think those are amazing qualities for a human being, and it is an honor for us to introduce Luana Marques.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can I just take her for all my talks now, and she settles everybody, and everybody takes a deep breath, and we're present and intentional. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you, Lucky, for being here. Thank you all. I'm so excited. Bom dia. Wow, that's incredible. Can we do that again? Bom dia. Bom dia. Wow, I love this. It's an honor to be here with you guys today. And so, I've given so many presentations in my life, and often there is PowerPoints and this and that and all those things. And do you know what I'm doing today? Throwing it all out. I have no slides for you guys. Wow, I should do more often. Look at that. So, and this is why I heard so much about being here and how you all are so present together. And so this is what we're going to do today. We're going to dig deep and talk about my favorite topic. We'll talk about avoidance. We'll talk about how to overcome it together. We'll get to know each other. And then I'll teach you the 3 strategies that have changed my life, that got me from poverty in Brazil to today being in the US, from today being here with all of you. And every time I'm on stage and I'm sharing my story, I don't take it for granted. My life could have gone in a different way, and I wouldn't have the privilege of being here. And each one of you today have a story, and each one of you have a message to share. And so by the end of the day, my hope is that I plant a little seed so that you too have strategies, science-driven strategies that can really pivot your life in a way that can really change it. So that's my commitment for you today. How does that sound? We're good? All right, so my favorite question, how many of you woke up today and you could tell me that you felt extremely bold? All right, we have 4, 5, 6, 7. What are the words that you woke up with? So most of us don't wake up feeling bold, by the way. I honestly didn't. I woke up a little tired. My son woke up at 4 in the morning talking, having some conversations. I was like, what is this? He never wakes up in the middle of the night. And so I was just a little sluggish. And I was like, I was doubting myself a little bit. I was like, do I have what it takes to do this presentation? I'm a little tired. So I wasn't particularly bold myself. So you're not alone. Now, what are the words that came to mind this morning? How are you feeling? Excited. What else? Hopeful. What else? Happy. Grateful. Tired. Okay, I'm not alone. Thank you. What else? Anxious. Okay.
Don't want to do it.
Don't want to do it. Yeah, no, heck no. How many of us do feel stuck on and off? Like life is just not moving forward, right? And the reality is we're not alone. Since the pandemic, there's been a 25% increase in depression and anxiety and feeling stuck globally. 80% of people in the US today are saying that their life is not working for them, that the things that they used to do are no longer bringing joy, and that somehow they feel like they don't know what's next. Have you felt that way? Yes. That the things that gave you pleasure before are no longer the things that get you excited, keep you going. So I felt that way very much early on in my life. I grew up in Brazil. How many of you have read my book so that I get a pulse? Part of it. Okay. Awesome. The reason I asked that question is I don't want to share with you something they already know, but maybe if I may, let me start a little bit with my story. So I grew up in Brazil in a little town called Governador Valadares. Now I know some Brazilians are here. 2, 3. Okay. Some more on the way. Fantastic. They're going to miss all the Brazilian story, but that's okay. They know Brazil. Okay, here we go. And early on, it was really actually tough. There was a lot of domestic violence in my home. My parents are amazing human beings, but they had me at 20. And drugs, alcohol, and lack of emotion regulation didn't make it for the most safe home environment. And so early on, a lot of my life was on survival mode. Do you know what I mean by survival mode? It's a lot of that limbic system, right? Fight, flight, and freeze. Watching, looking around, making sure that my mom was safe, that my sister was safe. What could I do to make sure things were safe? And early on, I got really stuck. I was a very anxious kid. And in fact, I just learned this about myself when I wrote Bold Move. I used to have asthma attacks, the worst asthma attacks you could imagine. I remember being in school, my mom being called, her grabbing me, public hospital in Brazil, long lines. We're running in. I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And next thing you know, they got me a doctor. I had a nebulizer, and this happened many times as a child. As I was writing Bold Move one morning, at 4 a.m, I was typing, and I must have been typing a story about domestic violence in my home. And I had this realization. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have asthma anymore. I was like, what happened? And then I tracked it back and back and back, and I realized that when my father left the house and there was no more domestic violence, I had no more asthma. And so as an adult, as a clinical psychologist, at 46, I finally realized that as a kid, I had panic attacks, not asthma attacks. I couldn't breathe. And in Brazil at that time, and even in the US these days, in every community clinic I work with, pediatricians are saying it's asthma, when in fact the kid is saying, I can't breathe, I'm in fight, flight, or freeze. And when you can't breathe and you fight, flight, or freeze, you're in survival mode. And what happens in survival mode? Does anybody know? What happens to our brain in survival mode? You're surviving. Your amygdala takes over. And when your amygdala takes over, what happens to your thinking brain? It's not logical. It goes offline, right? So that's the first thing that's really important. And I did not know this as a kid. That when you are in your emotional brain, you're on fight, flight, or freeze, right? And fight, flight, or freeze is designed to do what? Protect. Do you need to think to run from a bear? No, you don't need to think. And so there is an inverse relationship between here, the back of our brain, and I teach it this way to my 6-year-old. There is our emotional brain, and there's our thinking brain. When we're in an emotional brain, if I put you all in a functional MRI, just a fancy machine, and I gave you math problems, and I measured your reaction time, how fast you answer that, you'd be doing really well until I showed you a big scary thing, and then your thinking brain goes offline. And so when we are anxious and we say things, I can't think, you actually can't think, right? And so I shared this in the spirit that as a little kid, I did not know this. I did not know that I had panic attacks. What I knew is that I was scared and that I was anxious and that I did not know what to do. And so how do we manage that? Actually, let me back up for a second. Does everybody here, and I made an assumption, so I'm going to back up from that assumption. Everybody here know what fight, flight, or freeze is? Everybody. So what happens when your brain senses danger? Can you describe it to me? One of you.
You either want to run or you want to face it.
Okay, fight, fight, or freeze. Okay, so you're going to run, you're going to flee, or you paralyze. There is the freeze response, right? Okay, paralyzed. Okay, so, but then what happens in your body? Adrenaline. Your breath changes. Heart goes fast. What else?
Or you cannot breathe.
You cannot breathe, yeah. Discomfort, yeah. So pretty quickly, the amygdala goes on, and the body stops thinking. So prefrontal cortex goes down, and now your heart starts to pound. The blood drains from your brain to your extremities. Your pupils change. Your temperature increases, right? And it may happen all at once, pretty quickly, right? You start to feel dizzy. You have vision change. Your palms sweat. Hot and cold flashes. Why does this happen? We all know it happens, but why does it happen? So you can run faster? Mm-hmm. It's an evolutionary response to danger, right? So, and do we have control over the evolutionary response? No. We have no control. right? This is really important. So that happens all fast. And they all have a function, though. Why do we feel dizzy when we are anxious? We don't have enough, and we don't have enough, actually, we don't have enough blood in our brain either, right? Why do we sweat? Why do we cool yourself down? Why is that necessary?
Temperature rose.
Exactly. Otherwise, you fry out your brains, right? So you sweat because you need to protect yourself. Your vision changes. Why? But why do you get then spots in your eyes?
The blood pressure went up.
And your vision changed. You're hyper-focused, right? This is all important because if we're facing a real danger, right? If a lion just out of sunlight came here, and in my presentation there was a big lion that was going to scream at you guys, and I'll get you all to jump. But given that I gave that away, if a lion came here, we all feel that. And then we'd say to ourselves, that's okay. That was a lion, right? But see, the brain is really smart when it comes to being able to protect us. But our brains are literally stupid, literally. I'm sorry. My son says I can't say stupid. He says the S word. I was like, okay. He's not here, so I get to say stupid. Our brains are stupid when it comes from differentiating between a real threat, a bear, an ambulance, and a perceived threat. Right? So if it's a real threat, fight, flight, or freeze, it makes a lot of sense. But if the brain can't differentiate from a real threat or perceived threat, what do we then do when our brain senses danger? It goes on fight, flight, and freeze, but it's a perceived threat. What do we do?
A bunch of stuff I don't want to do.
Oh, yeah. And what are those things called? Give me an example. Procrastination. Hold on. Give me an example. A bunch of things.
If someone's yelling at me at home, I want to be able to yell back, but I can't. I'm paralyzed.
Okay, so somebody yells at you and your brain freezes. So for you, your response is what I call you really remain. You're just stuck. Deer in the headlight, your body shuts down. Yeah. Somebody else.
Inertia.
Okay, what does that mean for you?
For me, it means I'm unable to function at all. This happens to me almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
Where I have so much going on in my head that I just can't function, and I wind up sitting on the sofa watching, not even having the TV on, not even
But not watching it.
paying attention to the TV, just sitting there like frozen, like
Yep, I'll get to
inertia.
dissonance. But
And
this-
so I can't do what I need to do.
That's exactly
Sit
right.
there and let it pass
Uh-huh.
until I can.
Until today. Until today. Because you're not walking out of here without changing. That's as simple as that. Until today. Well, guess what? It takes one to know one. Just saying.
I wanted to say that when I'm being yelled at, I do the opposite. If you're going to yell at me, I'm going to yell 10 times louder.
Oh, yeah. And the louder you get, the better you feel momentarily. But then what happens next? Hold. Let her say.
After I keep yelling, I realize I'm not heard.
Yeah. And then?
And then, depending on how quick I can send the message to my brain that I can be okay, that I don't have to say a word, sometimes that message doesn't get there fast enough.
Yeah.
So I do two things depending on how spiritually I'm feeling that day.
It is true. Hold.
I either scream louder
Uh-huh.
or I completely shut up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're all talking about what we are biologically wired to do. I want to say that again. We are biologically wired to move away from discomfort. And guess what? The way you're all talking about is, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. We do have a choice, but in that moment, in that millisecond of a moment, it feels strongly like you don't have a choice, doesn't it? Right? And the reason is because we haven't trained your brain yet. And that's what we're going to do today. I promise you that I will teach you and I'll train your brain by the end of today. But right now, your brain is running as if it is a real threat. And sometimes it is. For my mom, domestic violence was a real threat. Right? So I am not talking about training your brain for real threats. I'm talking about training your brain for perceived threats. Right? When my father left, there was no threat anymore, but my mom is still jumping at anything that would fall because there was a potential threat. Right? Her amygdala was on fight, flight, or freeze, even though there was no threat anymore. And so that distinction is really important for us today, that we are talking about a perceived threat. We're talking that we're biologically wired to fight, flight, or freeze. And if it's a real threat, let's do it, right? Safety first. If it's a perceived threat, we engage in what I call psychological avoidance. Psychological avoidance is anything we do, any of us, that is a quick fix, right? It's that yelling fast, is that numb response, is that sitting on the couch and actually just looking at that TV. Momentarily, it feels better. Momentarily, it's a quick fix. Long term, it comes with a price tag, right? Shame is one of the price tags. For me, growing up was so painful that I remember one particular day I woke up, I got out of bed, it had been raining. The roof of our house was actually leaking, so there's water all over. I step out, and there was a mushroom growing. It was disgusting. I must have been 12. I step on this mushroom, and my world felt like it was gonna crumble. That I couldn't do it anymore, so I begged my mom. I said, please let me stay home. I can't do this. And so being a good mom, she did. She let me stay home. And to this day, I remember, I was staying in her bed, watching TV, if watching something I could say, similar to you, with a bag of cookies. There's this like chocolate cookies. I can see what the Bono cookies in Brazil, you know, those little Bono cookies. I remember just eating and eating and eating. And it felt so good, momentarily. My entire life as a result, because I didn't learn how to manage my emotions as a kid, I dealt with obesity. And I mean it. I just finished losing 50 pounds yet one more time. And it's going to be a fight in my life. I won't lie to you. Stress comes on, and you know, it's so funny because my book came out and they're like, oh, she binge eating. It's not actually. Is it when I get stressed, it's a cookie and a cookie and a cookie, and then another cookie and a cookie, and then I'm trying to do something, and it's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna have a toast now, and my body freezes, and I can't actually. I would exercise, and I won't lose weight because I'm on fight, flight, or freeze. And so my body understands that as I need to hold on to everything so that I could survive that winter, whatever that winter is, right? And so psychological avoidance, anything that we do that allows us to feel better in the moment but gets us stuck. I coined the 3 R's of avoidance. And the reason I did is I wanted us to have a vocabulary together to talk about avoidance that is not just, you know, fight, flight, or freeze. So let me explain, and then I'm going to ask for some examples. And I already have some, so I'm going to call on some of you guys. For me, if I perceive threat, this just happened about 2 weeks ago. I was about to take off on a plane to go to a presentation. And, you know, I work at Harvard, as you all know. And, you know, there's a particular thing that happens in academia that's pretty challenging. There's a title to this that I'll share with you guys that it's not a title that we think of very fondly. But as you get very, very up on your career, you at times get donations for people to do your research, right? They invest on you. The title, sometimes they call this, I'm sorry if I'm insulting anybody, but I'm going to say what it is. They call this academic prostitution. Yeah, it's not pretty. But the reason they call it this is that sometimes donors come and say, you know, I want to give you some money, but you have to do this study the way I think this study has to be done. I want to give you some money, and you have to do just the way you want to do. And I know exactly what you need to do in your research. And maybe they have some good ideas. I'm not suggesting that people that are investing, especially on my work, I should say, most of my work is training people in community organizations to teach youth who are inner city youth how to regulate their emotions. That's my passion in life. If I can teach every little kid in the world about their brain and emotion regulation, then we'll have a better world, right? Right? To me, that's how we change the world. We teach everybody what I did not know at 5 and 6. And so I was about to take off, and I got this email about a potential donor that wanted to give me something. And this comes through our development officer, and it's like, you know, they want to give you all this money, but here's what you have to do, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And they mean well, by the way. They really meant well. But the problem is, it really pissed me off. And I'm in this plane, And I take a screenshot, I send to my husband. There's long history here, by the way, right? This is not the first time this happens. I send to my husband with lots of things. And then I'm on fight, flight, or freeze. So what do? I am typing the email back really fast. The plane's about to take off. I am not going to give him a protocol. I cannot, this is not going to happen. It goes on and on. I'm not going to actually tell you what. And I get a text back from my husband. He goes, do not send that email. That's avoidance. I go, phone off. Okay, I can do it. I react. I share their story in the spirit of, they push my hot buttons. And when they did, I went fight, flight, or freeze. You yell, I send an email fast. That's what I do. I just compose, I press send, and then the next morning, I feel horrible. Right? Because I didn't pause. And I'll teach you how to pause in a second, but before I need to teach you about avoidance. So one flavor of avoidance is react. We yell. We raise our voice. We interrogate the hell out of somebody so that we can just get the answer that we want. Right? We quit our job hastily. We literally just do anything. We are going towards discomfort. That is reacting as a form of avoidance. You are going towards, with one function and one function only, to eliminate that potential threat. Avoidance is not about what we do. Hear me clearly. It's about why we do it. And reacting, the why is, I wanted that situation to be gone. Now, how many of you react to avoid here? Okay. I want a few examples. Your reaction, tell me. What do you do? Yep. How do you react to avoid?
My reaction to avoidance is I isolate, or if there's like a decision I have to make, I probably would just do it without telling anyone, and just kind of like it's almost self-sabotaging too.
Yes.
You know?
So
instead of facing the conversation that's difficult and telling the person that, hey, I don't really agree with you, I kind of would just do it and just kind of burn that bridge and just like move on, like, all right, fuck off.
fuck off, yeah, hell yeah. And it feels better when you do until it doesn't anymore, right? Okay, so he gave me two flavors of avoidance. The first one was react, right? Fuck off. Instead of dealing with conflict, you cut it that high, hastily. I'm here. And the other one is actually retreat. So how about I give you the three flavors, and then we do a little workshop together and talk about everybody's flavor, a little bit of avoidance. Is that fair? First one, we react. The second one is retreat. Retreat is moving away from the discomfort, whatever that discomfort is, to try to minimize it. That's when you walk into your house, you see your partner, they give you a look, and you go, oh, I'm gonna go cook dinner. Guilty. Or you are in your brain. You're talking about your avoidance a little bit as retreating. In your brain, thinking about every scenario, possible scenario, what's going to happen next, what is going on. And in the worst case scenario is always knocking on your door. So you visualize the worst case scenario. And then it goes from retreating to then remaining. Right? Remaining is the frozen deer on the headlight. So fight, you react. Flight, you retreat. Freeze, you remain, right? Remain is when we can't do most of things. If you have a trauma history, by the way, which many of us, I understand, have in the room, we can get to freeze really quickly, right? Because your brain early on has been on that amygdala response so much that you hyper-train your amygdala, and it will fire faster than somebody else that does not have early childhood adverse events. Right? So, let me pause here. Is the flavors of avoidance clear for everybody? Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's do this. Let's start with just react. Okay? How many in the room react to avoid? Okay. I would love an example for you, Joanna. Give me an example of reacting to avoid.
I procrastinate. Mm-hmm. I don't face things, and I just go clean the house. Okay, so slow it down for me. And I'm gonna, everybody that volunteer, I'm going to make you slow it down, and we're gonna have to role play together, and that's how we're gonna do it. So give me a clear example of something you're procrastinating right now. There's so many things.
Give me a clear one.
Going to the doctor and doing things that I know I need to do for my health.
So you wake up and you're thinking about going to the doctor, and then what happens?
But then I start thinking, oh, that's not important. There's other things that are more important. Let me do that first.
So
But then I'm hating myself for it.
Okay, slow it down. So you wake up, your brain says, I need to go to the doctor. There's a health thing that I need to attend to. And then thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Okay, for us to change, the first thing we need to do is pause. The only way to pause is to link what we're saying to ourselves, how we feel, and what we do. Okay, and if you have a paper and pen, and many of you do, write it down. Thoughts, emotions, and behavior cycle. This is called the TAB cycle. The TAB cycle allows us to hit a pause button. We're going to see how to do that right now. So you say to yourself, there are things that are more important, and then what happens next?
I go about my day. Then I feel the symptoms that I know I need to go to the doctor for, and it reminds me I need to do it, but then I just don't do it because I think the money is not there.
So slow it down. Do you see how she's summarizing? And can I keep going?
Yeah.
If I ever today push too hard on one of you, can you just give me a look, and I'll back off? I usually know to back off, but if you want me to back off, tell me.
I'm okay.
So what she's doing beautifully, and I want to use Giovanna's example because it's what we do. When I ask people to talk about their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, they give me a summary. She's giving me a beautiful summary of what her day looks like. Right? I said I need to go to the doctor, and then she's already doing something else, but she's hating herself here, and the day has gone by. But I don't really understand what's going on in her head yet. Right? And most of us don't understand what's going on in our brain because it feels so uncomfortable, so we avoid. Right? But if we don't slow down our brain enough, then we don't know actually what's leading the procrastination. The procrastination is what is the behavior, right? She's procrastinating, that's what she's doing, that's the behavior. Thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. The thought is, I need to go to the doctor. Then there's another thought of, the money is not there. What does it mean when the money is not there?
I know whatever I need to do is going to cost a lot. Then I'm going to have to pay a lot out of pocket. I have my daughter that needs X, Y, and Z. Better do that first, and then, I start leaving it for later and later and later.
So again, you're going to the behavior. I'm still in your thinking and your emotions, and I can see right now they're holding on to your emotions to not go there. And it's fair. We're in a room full of people, but I'm gonna put words in your mouth, and you tell me if I'm wrong. The thought goes something like this: you wake up, and it's just not her. So think about yourself for a second. I need to go to the doctor. Oh my God, I don't have money. I don't have money. My daughter needs this. Now I'm starting to feel, just saying it, I'm starting to feel anxious, right? Okay, so I must just do what my daughter needs. My health is really not important. It's going to okay. It's going to hold a little bit. You feel a little more anxious. And then you numb all of that out by doing whatever you need to do. You show up here, you do your budget, you do something else, you talk to potential people, and then you get to the end of the day, and then you said something really beautiful. I start to hate myself. Right? Because, I'm sorry to say this to you, if you're a dad, you can't be there for your daughter.
Yeah.
At all. It's as simple as that. Right? But we're getting this treadmill of doing, because we have a narrative in our brain, and the narrative in your brain is that money is not there, therefore I can't do it. And that's fair. I mean, I grew up, there's a time in my life that my mom, my sister, and I had one potato to share. And I remember thinking, I shouldn't eat. They should eat. Right? Why should I eat? They should eat. And so I'm with you, but that being said, that thought there, right? I bet if you really wrote down, and I encourage you to do it, you see that you're procrastinating because you're so terrified of what's going on with your health and not having means to take care of it. Procrastination, it's a quick fix. It's avoidance, and it keeps us stuck.
Mm.
And by the end of today, we're going to have a commitment about this. I have a feeling. One more example. Now you see what I'm doing. Now you have to example of avoidance. One more example of avoidance. Please. What's your name? Marcy. I love the hat, Marcy. I love that hat. I just had to say, it's so pretty. I want a hat now.
Thank you. I've been wanting, but it's so much like Giovanna's, so it's not going to really give you a different thing.
That's
but
not a
because it's
problem.
avoidance and procrastination. I have needed to fix my house for 30 years. And every single time I start to take a step toward it, I avoid it like crazy because I'm so afraid of making the wrong decision of what to do. I can make decisions for everybody else. I see it right away, but when it comes to me, I just can't make a decision. And I just had another opportunity. Met a wonderful woman who loves to fix houses. She says, Marcy, I'll hold your hand. I'll go to the stores. We'll do this. I've sabotaged it again. And there's always something else. There's always the next thing I have to do that takes priority, and I don't take that step to put in the effort to find out what I want to do to fix my house.
Marcy,
So-
may I say that it's not that you don't put in the effort, you're putting a lot of effort, a lot of thinking effort.
I
That's
do.
a lot of 30 years of thinking about how to fix your house. That's a lot of effort. It's not that you're not putting effort, it's that your actions are not aligned with your values because of the narrative in your brain. There's something that you're saying to yourself that's keeping you stuck there. So help me understand, what if you make the wrong decision in your house? So you paint your bathroom pink. So what?
That's true. And
So, no, slow it down for me. Don't give it so easy, huh? Did you really think I was going to get that easy, Marcy? No.
Okay. No.
Okay, walk with
but
me for a
I
second.
do say that to my, so what? What's the big deal if I come up and I do all this work and spend it and da-da-da-da-da? and-
Wait, slow it down there. If you spend, then what? So you're going to spend on your house, which means you're spending on you.
That's okay.
Okay?
Okay, it's okay.
Okay.
It
So
really
then,
is okay.
So then how come you haven't done it?
Because I can't make the decision about what I want. And you're saying, I get it. If I make the wrong decision, so what? I still move forward, right?
That's not what I'm saying. Yet.
Okay, sorry.
That's the end of the conversation right there. If I said that would be the end of the conversation. What
Okay.
I'm trying to understand is all of us, and I'm staying with Marcy here because many of you are nodding your head, so there's something there. Making decisions are hard, and this is why making decisions are hard, okay? Our brain likes to be in status quo, okay? And what that means is this. Our brain has two functions, to predict and to protect. Protect first, okay? That's the first function of the brain. Then is to predict. And predicting is we want to know what's next. We all do. Why? Because it gives us comfort, right? The brain doesn't like when two things don't match. When two things don't match, then we have what's known as cognitive dissonance. Big term to just say the brain is in discomfort, right? Let me give you a silly example. This just happened to me in a trip. And I'll get back to you. Hold that microphone because I'm with you still. I want to teach you what's happening in your brain so that we can get to decision for everybody. You know, I was in Spain with my family on vacation, and we were walking around, and my son wanted this fruit. And it was this, there's a market, and he like screams, he wants this fruit, and I was like, okay, let's go get this fruit. And, my Spanish is so-so, really so-so. And, my husband is there, he's Mexican, so he's speaking Spanish. The guy says this fruit, this yellow fruit, beautiful fruit, and he tells us what the fruit is. Now, if I tell you, we're in Spain, it's yellow, it's delicious, what comes to mind? Banana? Mango? What else? Orange? Pineapple. What is it? Maracujá, sim. Passion fruit? Uh-huh. Okay, so that's what I imagine for yellow fruit, right? But the vendor said it was a watermelon. So, the vendor is saying it's a watermelon and it's yellow. My brain goes, watermelons are not yellow. And so, because he gave my story away, but that's true. So, but for a second, I was like, okay, I don't understand Spanish. Clearly, he's not saying watermelon. My Spanish is broken. And if it is a watermelon, then how did they make this watermelon that's yellow? My son is going to get sick. This is going on my brain. Before my kid is actually, this is cognitive dissonance. It's a silly example to share to you that just a fruit got my brain spinning. And I was pretty anxious. I was like, and it turned out that watermelons can be yellow. And I had no idea. Yep. And and then I had to Google, of course, and get all the information about it. But I had about 20 seconds there, Marcy, that my brain was in dissonance. Two things didn't match, and I couldn't make a decision. Right? What happens in dissonance is our brain locks, and the only decision we make is a decision leads to comfort. So in Marcy's case, the best decision is to not renovate her house. Why? Because it's the lane that she's known for 30 years. It's predictable. I know what to do in this lane, right? Watermelons are red, not yellow. In her case, her house is the way it is, and she said, I sabotage many times. It's your brain that's sabotaging. Your brain is basically saying, this is uncomfortable. It sounds to me like you really want this house to be renovated, and yet the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't know. Only because the brain likes to take status quo. In dissonance, we get on fight, flight, or freeze. Right? So I'm going to go back to you. Does that make sense for everybody? Yes. We're on the same page? Dissonance, by the way, is our friend. Yes, go ahead.
Could you spell that word?
English is my second language. Let me just spell and okay, now I'm going to get it. Dissonance. Somebody can spell it for you, for sure. I don't know if I can spell in Portuguese anymore, I have to say. But so going back to Marcy, okay. So thinking about this idea, right, help me understand why is it important to you to renovate your house?
If you saw it, you would know.
So Marcy, my career, hold on, Marcy.
My secret is out.
Okay, what she said is so beautiful. What she said is so beautiful. Hold tight, everybody, because this applies to each one of us. If you saw it, you know it, because we'll judge it the way she's judging it. That's not what I asked, Marcy.
You want to know the truth? It's okay for me. It is okay for me. But if I'm very comfortable in my house. But to give you an example, my husband does not want company because of the house. And the thing is, this is a bathroom. We have to start with the bathroom. That's the thing.
Okay, so hold. Before we start, we need to know why we're doing something. So what do we hear from Marcy? Why does she want to do this? No, hold on. Why? You're hearing all the noise, but why?
She wants to please her husband. She's the judgment.
Judgment.
She wants friends over and her friends and then family to please her husband. Yeah, she doesn't.
All right, here we go. Marcy, this is what I hear. As it is, my house is comfortable for me. I'm okay with it. Fair? Why do we want to change something that is okay? We don't. So let's pause there for a second before we all jump in with our own scenarios for Marcy. The first step is you're not sabotaging. You don't want it to be done, right? Now, we all live in context. And so you brought in your husband who would like to have company over perhaps. And I don't even know if he does.
I don't know either.
She doesn't know either. So
And the thing is, I have them whether he likes it or not. So it's not like he's stopping me. But it is true that it's not great. It's not great.
But it's good enough, Marcy. And I'm going to pause here because I want to hear more avoidance. But what I want to say to you and to everyone here is I asked a question, and then you all gave me the whats. Okay, I said, why does Marcy want to do this? And you gave me the whats, like, you know, her husband, this and that. What I hear, and I'm sorry to say this, but what I hear is this, for you is okay, and that's why you haven't done it. And Marcy, that's okay. When it becomes important enough, then we align values with action. And I'll teach you guys how to do that. But the first step is this. If that why is not there for us, we're not going to do it, because to do it, you're going to have to fight dissonance. And fighting dissonance is a pain in the butt. It's exhausting, and it's a pain in the butt. So the first step is maybe it doesn't need to be fixed. Because I hear people knocking on your door trying to help you do it, and at every stage you're like, I'm not ready. You're just not ready. And guess what? That's not avoidance. That's living a life the way you want to live it. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I say this with lots of compassion towards you and everybody in this room. Don't change because your husband wants it. Don't change because somebody else. Change because it no longer serves you and you only. That's it.
Got it.
Okay, I'm still on the avoidance.
I am the queen of avoidance.
Fantastic. I met my best friend. I knew from the time I met you, so tell us.
I avoid pretty much everything. I avoid calling my family, calling my friends,
Microphone up a little bit so people can hear. Okay, so you avoid calling
doing the
friends.
work I need to do, writing reports, calling clients. I avoid it to the last minute.
Okay.
Till
What's
I
your
can't
name
anymore.
again? Your name?
Betty.
Betty.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I-
Betty avoids everything.
Every single, I avoid, and I mean, I've been through a lot right now, but
But
I've
you
always been a little bit that way. Like I said, I avoid every single thing, and then I isolate and I freeze and I sit and I
Yeah.
do nothing. And I cannot talk to people I can spend a whole week without talking to people, and then I'm like, oh my God.
Well, you're having
I
a
have
lot of
to-
conversations in your head, so you're talking to a lot of people. Just saying. Just saying.
I mean, I work, so I talk to people then, but I'm saying my personal
No, I
life,
hear you,
my
Betty.
personal life,
So
and I can't get out of it.
until today, I told you already,
Can't
Betty.
get out of it.
So Betty avoids everything. Does anybody else avoid lots of things here? Okay, we all avoid. Can we agree? Okay. So you may not avoid everything, but we all avoid. Okay. And the reason we are here today is this. The common denominator for all of us is avoidance. Whenever I meet with somebody, they tell me they're feeling anxious, they're stuck. You said it. I feel stuck. I feel like my life is not working for me. But why are we stuck? Why do we feel anxious? Why do we procrastinate? Because we are avoiding. Right? I think about avoidance as a infection, not the fever. Let me explain this. Imagine that you had a really high fever, all of you. Have you all had a fever before? Yeah. And imagine that you took a Tylenol to bring your temperature down. Would that Tylenol help that temperature come down? Yeah. Would it actually treat the infection? Well, let's not go so fast. You all read my book, sounds like. It depends, okay? If you just have a cold and it's a mild cold, the Tylenol is going to bring the fever down. It's not going to address for sure the cold, but you'd be okay, right? Now, what if you have an antibiotic, if you have a bacterial infection? It brings the temperature down, but does it treat the bacteria? What do you need at that point? Antibiotic. Right? So all of the things that we feel in life, the discomfort, anxiety, stress, burnout, procrastination, not calling somebody, sitting in front of the TV, that's the fever. And what I hear in this room today is what I hear all the time. We're so focused on that fever, right? I can't call my family. I yell at somebody, right? And we have so much discomfort there that we don't look at the infection. Right? The problem is not what we do, is why we do. And the why is to bring our discomfort down. We avoid so we can get a quick fix. We reach for a drink, we eat too much, we don't call somebody, we stay at home. That is what we do. The why is so that we don't feel discomfort. Right? That's why we avoid. We're trying to get a quick fix. The problem is, for you, Betty, what's the price tag? What does it cost you to avoid everything?
Oh my God, and then it becomes, negative self-talk. It's like, oh my God, you're such an asshole. Why can't you do this?
So you're beating yourself up. But what has been
Diggy,
the
I
cost?
was like,
Give us one.
it costs relationship with my family, relationships with my friends, intimacy in that sense,
Yeah. So relationships, intimacy.
Being responsible with my work. I mean, I procrastinated writing reports until I just can't do it. I have to.
Yep.
Until they're calling me, hey, you gotta.
Do a report.
I have one right now that I have to do.
Okay, so for
I
Betty.
avoid shopping, everything. I mean, everything. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So for Betty is a lot of avoidance, and the price tag is interpersonal. I want to hear from the back here, because you guys are way too quiet. So, and I know there's people on Zoom, they can hear me. Price tag for avoidance. Somebody. Loneliness. Give me an example of a problem just growing.
So, can I elaborate a little bit?
Yes, I'd love you to.
So, at my work, I'm getting more responsibility.
Okay.
So, for example, at my work, I'm getting a lot more responsibility, and I'm being exposed to a lot of.
The mic is not on.
Oh. Testing.
All right. All right. What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin. So Kevin is getting a lot more responsibility. Kevin, tell us more. Tell us more.
So recently, I've been being given a lot more responsibility at work, and it's in response to good things. I'm doing programming now. I'm doing a lot more project design. I'm doing a lot more stuff that I didn't normally do before. And it was because of a lot of positive feedback that I got from my employers. However, now as I'm encountering things that I haven't done before, things that are very complex and they're only going to increase in complexity, I find myself, you know what, let me take 30 minutes, I'm gonna go for a walk, and I'm just gonna, and then that one 30-minute walk becomes two 30-minute walks, it becomes three 30-minute walks.
And Kevin, can I slow you down?
Yeah.
Before we go to the walk, right? So Kevin is talking about something that's really important. Sometimes we only think about avoidance as the negative things. Avoidance shows up even when you're actually pushing towards things that are good. For me, early on in my career, I avoided by being successful. I didn't have a marriage, I was miserable. But I was certainly successful. So whenever you get an opportunity at work, sometimes the avoidance kicks in. Before you take that walk, what are you saying to yourself about the specific tasks you have to do?
I can't do this.
I can't do this. What else? Give me the thoughts. Imagine I could read your brain without editing. I can't do this.
This is too difficult.
This is too difficult.
I can't learn this.
I can't do this. This is too difficult. I can't learn this. How did you feel in your body at that point?
Frozen.
Well, that's frozen, but give me some of the emotions. How do you feel?
Inadequate.
Inadequate. So I'm inadequate. I can't do this. I feel.
Almost like a fraud.
I'm a fraud. I feel.
I feel scared.
Yeah. Do you see how hard it is to get to emotions? Thank you for playing with me. It's really hard. I keep asking Kevin for emotions, and he's giving me his thoughts. We all do this because we start sentence with I feel. I feel like a fraud. So what he's saying is this: I'm a fraud. I'm inadequate. I'm incompetent. I can't do this. I feel anxious, and then you freeze. You freeze. You feel so bad. You go for a walk. In the walk, what are you saying to yourself?
Actually, I'm trying not to think about the thing that I have to do after the walk.
So what are you doing in the walk?
I'm trying to disassociate. I'm trying to get away from the problem.
Okay, so you are daydreaming.
I listen to music. Yeah.
Okay, so you're listening to music, which makes you feel a little better in that anxiety?
Yes.
Okay. Then you walk back into the office, you sit in your computer, whatever task, and then what happens?
I gotta do this again.
And then your brain says what?
Time to go for another walk.
I was getting to that walk. I was getting to that walk. Did you all see how Kevin just avoided in real time, by the way? Did you all see this? He jumped at the walk. He just jumped to the walk, and before I could pin him down to his brain saying, see, this is my words, sorry to step in there. See, I am stupid, I can't do this. I went for a walk and I still can't do this shit. So, and then the anxiety goes up, and then you go for another walk, right? And that walk momentarily brings it down, and then it gets you stuck again, right? So he is retreating to avoid, momentarily feels better. And my question was the price tag. So what has been the price tag in this new opportunity?
So it means that I'm not able to fulfill the role as much as I could. I'm not present. I'm not able to listen more attentively to what the rest of my team needs. And I'm sabotaging for myself an opportunity to learn a skill that I'm there because I've shown that I can do this before. But now that I have to do it again, it's like, am I a one-trick pony? Was that the only time I could do that?
God, that imposter syndrome, it sucks, doesn't it? Anybody ever had this? One time, early in my career, remember how I said that I avoided by being productive? So when I got to Harvard, which was my dream, in my postdoc here, I decided that I was going to just write lots of papers because I knew that in academia, to climb up, you had to write papers. And so I kept writing papers. I was miserable, but I was writing papers, and everybody kept saying, oh, Luana, you're amazing. And one of those papers got accepted. Now, if you don't know anything about academia, getting a paper accepted takes 3 to 6 months. It's a lot of work. Usually there is a revise and resubmit, and it's a lot of work. This paper got accepted with no revisions. Right, to a really damn good journal. And I was first author, okay? And I got the acceptance email. I was happy for a second. And then my brain goes, of course it got accepted. The co-authors are so smart. They knew who they were. I'm clearly still stupid. And so do you know what I did? Wrote 10 more papers. And do you think those 10 papers proved that I was smart? No. Because, see, I was avoiding by doing. Right? Kevin is avoiding by walking away. I was avoiding by actually doing. And it looks so good to the world. They love it. Luana is so prolific. I was miserable. That year, I put on 40 pounds. I got the papers, right? And we'll, after the break, we're not going to break, by the way, don't even, but I just want to promise you all. I saw some breathing, like, what do we mean? We're not going on a break. I just want to promise you that I'll teach you skills. But to actually learn skills, we need to find the real enemy, which is avoidance. If we don't understand and we don't call it, we can't change. I'll get to you in 2 seconds. And so that's why I'm harming on. I want to figure out, all of us, I want you to know your flavor of avoidance. And again, you react, retreat, or remain. Now, a caveat here. You probably do all three. Okay? I react at work, I retreat in my marriage, and I remain when there's potential danger. That's my childhood. I know it. And so now I can get myself unstuck pretty quickly, and all of you will too. I want to hear your question now.
I relate some. Hello?
I can.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you talk about food and the coping, I totally relate. I lived in a Vietnam in my house. I was always on guard, protecting my mom. So my earliest memories of food is that was my drug. Mm-hmm. So I would take food to my room to have it in case I couldn't leave the room because there was fighting. So that's my go-to to this day, is when I feel anxiety, I go straight for that drug.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because a drug, you either get rid of it or you don't, but food, there's a fine line between surviving with food and using it as a drug. So how did you cope? Mm-hmm. Like, how did you finally say, okay, this is not helping me? Because it's not.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And I will answer briefly, and then by the end of the day, I promise to teach you how to do it. How does that sound? For me, the breakthrough that finally got me was really understanding, one, really calling avoidance, and understanding what it looked like in my life, but then moving from a emotion-driven life to a value-driven life. An emotion-driven life is the kind of life, and I'll teach you guys this after the break, but I feel like I need to answer your question, is a life where our actions are aligned with our emotions. So if you're anxious, you go and grab a toast. If you're anxious, you grab chocolate. If you're anxious, and momentarily that helps, right? That's an emotion-driven life. Think about this as you're going for a drive, and your emotions get in the driver's seat, and it's basically driving you around. And you're like a toddler screaming in the back, but you're sort of coming along. Right? That's an emotion-driven life. What we know scientifically is that an emotion-driven life leads to anxiety, stress, burnout, obesity, and all sorts of things. The opposite of that is what's known as a values-driven life, when you really identify your core values and you create a strategy to align your actions with your values. For me, I had a moment that I thought I was having a stroke, and it was pretty bad. I was continuing to do the things I always did, and it wasn't working for me anymore, and I had this big scare. And on my way to the hospital, I just thought everything flashed, and I was like, oh my God, I'm about to lose everything, right? Because I've been avoiding my own reality. And from that breaking point, I started to really, and that's how I got to write Bold Move, because I felt like the world was in a similar place, and we needed to teach strategies to people. I moved from this emotion driven to value, and I spend a lot of time identifying my values. And today, there are 3 values that I live by: impact, health, and family. And so, and in health, is no longer just about how I look and what I eat. It's about, I define health as moving my body and living as long as I can to have joy with my son. That's health. And so every moment that I am anxious doing something, and trust me, I'm an anxious person. Don't let me fool you, I'm an anxious person. I should use a little card that says, I am an anxious person. It's true, but whenever it happens, I think about my values and what is the opposite I can do, a skill called opposite action that I'll teach you guys after the break again, and that is what got me unstuck. Does that help a little bit? It's my pleasure. Okay, I want one example for an avoidance from this side of the room, and it can't be yours because you're so lovely, you already did, but you all here have been very quiet, and then guess what? You're next. So do not think you're off the hook. One example for an avoidance here. Okay. What's your name, please?
Nettie.
What is it?
Nettie. So this is so perfect. So in my recovery of being a perfectionist, I was a neat freak and everything had to be clean and in order and all that. I realized in the process that I gave that such importance and got caught up in everything, right? So I've gone completely to the other side of that. To the point that I have things everywhere. I did become a shopaholic in trying to numb my pain.
Yeah.
So now I go into a store and I'm like, all these things, and what do I need all this for? So I'm completely opposite of that now in how I feel. But I have been living so far on the other side that it's been hard to come back to somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So I had a friend come over and clean out a closet. That was quite impactful. That I could actually step into the closet and see the floor and be able to walk in it. That now the rest of the house is still in that disarray, right? But I also noticed that there's a time that I just drifted completely and wasn't doing things that I enjoyed doing. Yeah. So after this closet cleaning, this Friday I said, what did I like doing? I had forgotten what I like doing, which is entertaining and bringing people to come and eat and set the table pretty and all this. Yes, I did pick up some of the stuff and shove it somewhere. In order for that dining room table to be able to be used. But before that would never happen, everything was in order. So now it's the shoving of stuff. But now I'm very aware. And my daughter made me aware that how long I have been there, not noticing. So yesterday I did shove the paper, but I did clean the table. I put flowers together, which I enjoyed doing. And I enjoyed them, I placed them, I cleaned. It looks spectacular, you know, and it's not a facade, that is really who I am. But I have been avoiding paperwork and papers because I used to do death settlement, that I'd go to dead people's houses and do that stuff. So something happened along my own journey with what I did for other people, and I hate to do it for myself. I know how to do it, no problem. I'm very organized and all that, but I've been stuck there. So I'm just uncovering, going back to who I really am, which is not doing that. So I'm in the mode that if you come by, I might want to just throw you out because I'm cleaning. I'm getting rid of things.
So don't come to her house is the answer, or comes ready to clean. One of those.
No, or to eat.
No, this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I could feel in my heart as you're sharing that you're getting closer to it. So this happens to all of us. Whenever we want to change overnight. Anybody else is impatient about change? And we want the quick fix, right? And when we attempt, has anybody attempted black and white? Attempted to change black and white in a black and white kind of way. That's what you're describing. You're basically saying, you know, I can't do it. Oh, I'm going to do it all the way. Right? You haven't exercised for 6 months, and then you exercise for 2 hours, and then you can't walk for a week. Come on. Or, you know, you're not going to do your reports, and then all of a sudden you're going to do all the reports today, and then you burn out, right? And then they're there. Oh, yeah. Well, no, they're not marathons. They're long sprints instead of marathons. That's the difference, is that we sprint and then we run out of gas, because life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Let me say that again. There's no finish line. When you finish, you start another race. That's life. And so when we attempt to do in black and white, we are just avoiding, and we are avoiding reality. Right? Very likely because either what we are saying to ourselves, how we're feeling, or what we're doing. It's really simple, and I know we want complex, but it's not. It's about how we're speaking to ourselves. Right? Our narratives, if we're saying, I'm stupid, you're paralyzed. Right? If every time you have an opportunity to go towards something, you walk away, you're training your brain that you can't handle it. This happened to me at 15. I moved from Governador Valadares, a small town in Brazil, with my mom and my sister, to a bigger town called Belo Horizonte, to live with my grandmother, a person that I call my grandmother. She was my stepdad's mom, and she lived in the big town. And my mom and my dad, my stepdad, believed that if I had a better education, perhaps I would have a better future. And so I moved there, and my brain became my worst enemy. I got to this high school, and I was terrified. My brain would say things like, people are going to laugh at you. They're going to think you're stupid. I didn't know the science the way they knew the science. I was horrible in Portuguese. So my first Portuguese test, I failed. And so people are going to laugh at me. They're going to hate me. And so I started to study really hard, really hard. And my grandmother would say things like, but you should have a lot of friends. Why don't they come by and hang out? Oh, no, I have to study. And this kept going, kept going, kept going. And I just was terrified of strangers. If at 15 you told me I'll be here engaging with you all, I'd have left. I'd have said, you know what, there's no way that that's the case. But see, I learned what I will teach you today from my grandmother. It's all scientifically based. I happened to eventually get a PhD, get names for things. But all that science came from my grandmother. One day, she invited me to go to the mall to eat Chinese food. How many of you had Chinese food here? Everybody, look at that. That's all we eat. Look at that. Well, guess what, folks? At 15, I had never seen Chinese food in my life. I had never eaten Chinese food in my life. And I got to the mall. I hadn't gone to the mall either, by the way, because in a small town there was no mall. And so there was a shopping mall across the street. I got this Chinese food. I smell it. Can everybody smell the Chinese food? Everybody with me still? And then my grandmother looks at me and says, do you see that older gentleman sitting over there? Looks like he needs some company. Company? My stomach dropped. That Chinese food almost came to the floor. I was on flight or freeze talking to someone. My grandmother, I remember, took me. We sat with a man, and that's all I remember. I don't remember anything else from that first trip. What I do remember is that my grandmother never took a no for an answer, and so we went to the mall again and again and again. I'm surprised I still like Chinese food, by the way, because those trips to the mall were not pleasant, but eventually they disappeared. And that is my encounter with avoidance. That is the moment in my life that I understood I was avoiding, and I was avoiding the most successful way. I was studying. And yet, had my grandmother not shown me avoidance and shown me to do the opposite of it, which is to approach that discomfort, I bet I'd still be in Brazil. I bet I still would be living that life that was very safe, likely by overachieving on some domain, but not being happy. Because that's what avoidance does. It robs us from our best life. So one more example of avoidance here, because you all been very quiet, and I don't like quiet parts of the room. So one example of avoidance here. And do we have a microphone for here? Yeah, we do. All right in the back there.
I guess mine is a little different.
That's okay.
So I think one of the things that I do, and then I guess it's positive avoidance we're referring to, is that one of the things that I do is that I'll have a big job to get done, as in a proposal.
Yeah.
And I know it's a lot of potential income or whatever, and I would just avoid it as much as I can. And sometimes it might be just to see how desperate the client is, to see how many times they follow up with me to get the proposal, or just I'm not really interested, but I need to do regardless, you know, or the job is gonna bore me. So I try to avoid it as much as possible, and so I say, okay, let me sit down and do this, and then I sit down and I go through the whole planning for, you know, designing, etc. And then once I get in the in the phase and in the process, I realize it's not that boring. It's not that that bad. Then I get it done, right?
What's your name again?
Ever is in front. Yeah. So yeah, usually that's and it's just the starting phase. Usually I avoid that, but once I'm on the roller coaster, it becomes a little easier. And then yeah.
Do you understand why you avoid it?
I think sometimes I feel like the client might not want to do the job, or that I'm just trying to figure out, see how much they really want to do it, so I don't waste my time on it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. That's definitely one reason. What other reason do you avoid it?
That I can think of, nothing else. Yeah.
And any other hypothesis why he might avoid? Fear of rejection, maybe? Fear of rejection?
I don't care. In business, you can reject it all the time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But a good one. Sometimes we avoid it because of fear of rejection. I didn't hear that either, but I'm not good enough? No.
Not at all.
So, one more? Fear of conflict. Fear?
No, I don't think so.
No. So can I take a stab at it?
Go ahead. Yeah.
May I take a stab at it? So this is what I heard you say. Okay? There's this job. And your brain goes, oh, this is going to be boring. They really don't want to do this. If I do this, it's going to be really boring. What if I do this and they don't want to do the job? Yeah, I might as well not do it. And then you don't do it, right? But then it sounds like when you actually do it, what happens? What does the data show when you do it?
Sounds like it's not as hard as what I thought it would be. It might be easier. And then there's the money is not really the ultimate prize. It's actually the process, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So really what's happening to him is he's avoiding through retreating by what he says to himself. There's a clear narrative, I bet, a narrative that contaminates several places of your life, because that's the case for all of us, that says, this is going to be boring, this is going to be really challenging, or this is going to take too much time. And then when we say those things to ourselves, we feel uncomfortable, we don't do it, until we have to do it. Right? But the problem with that kind of form of avoidance, and it's a great example, is that, again, we are training our brain one way and one way only. We can't do it. Right? If every time you make a commitment that you're going to do something good for yourself, you're going to take a walk, you're going to, have dinner with a friend, and you cancel those things, what are you learning? That you can't trust yourself, that you can't do it. And who is winning? Not you. Avoidance is winning. Right? Avoidance is winning because we are training our brain. In the end of the day, it's about training our brain. That's it. Okay? Can any one of you here, okay, fit or not, can any of you get to having a six-pack in 1 week? If you can, please teach me. We cannot do it. We cannot develop a six-pack in a week, right? We can buy one. Okay, fantastic. That one I never got. Betty's buying all of us at the break a six-pack, so we're going to come back all looking like Superman. Good one. We can buy one for sure, but we can't do it. I want you to think about your brain as you think about your physical body. You have to train your brain. This is about brain health. This is not mental health, folks. It's brain health. And when it comes to brain health, we need to have strategies, okay? And to have those strategies, the first thing we need to understand is to fight the real enemy, okay? And we all can fight it. And let's just look at this for a second. Betty, you avoid everything. True? We all know Betty here. Betty, get up so that everybody can see you. Welcome, Betty, everybody. So let me ask you a question. What are you doing here?
Oh.
Because if you avoid everything, I'm sort of shocked that you're here.
Actually, I'm shocked too.
Yeah! We're all shocked. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. I mean, I tend to go to sleep late. I tend to wake up at 11 o'clock every day, unless I have clients or whatever. But I always schedule them later in the day. And I hate myself every morning for getting up late.
Every morning. So, but you're here today.
And I'm
Help me
here
understand.
because of you. My friend.
I didn't show up at your house this morning.
No. But I saw you on Mel Robbins.
I understand that, but
and she texted me yesterday and said, "Oh, I'm going to go see Luana Marques. I want you to come with me." And I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, I'm going to go. I'm going to go."
Yeah.
And I was so excited that, first of all, that you had invited me. I wanted to be here with you, and I wanted to see you. It was very exciting. And I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Everybody hear that?
Just jumped out of bed.
But why, Betty? Slow it down, everybody. Stay with Betty for a second, 2 seconds. Why? It's not for me, Betty. I'm all excited, but I'm sorry. I didn't show up at your house. Why are you here today?
I thought it would be a good experience.
Why,
Something I
Betty?
could learn.
Why?
I mean, I know you do anxiety, and I am anxiety.
Excuse me? No one is anxiety. We all have anxiety. I'm sorry. But slow it down for 2 seconds. Betty.
Yes.
You're surprised that you're here today. What got you here today? Why? Just let her do it, guys. Let her do it. Betty, why?
I don't know.
I think you do. What do you want out of life?
What I want out of life?
Yeah.
I want to be able to do the things that I want to do and need to do.
And if I had a magical wand and I gave you that, how would life be different?
It'd be amazing.
How so,
Oh my
Betty?
gosh.
Paint a picture for us.
Just getting up today at 7 o'clock was amazing. I was so happy and excited and wow. You know.
So
and I want to do that every day.
And you want to do that.
It's hard. It's hard.
Let's not get too hard yet. You're here, Betty. And you're here. I hear because you want to overcome that avoidance. Because you don't want to be anxiety anymore.
That is true.
I hear that you're here because you want to be you. And you've tried all sorts of ways.
Yeah. I have.
And so I pause here because I want you to hear that. I want all of you to understand this. I'm not the key. You are the key. I'm here to teach you a strategy. I'm here to identify the real enemy. But you are going to have to wake up at 7. You're going to have to feel discomfort to overcome everything. And it's not going to be comfortable. It is living a comfortable, uncomfortable life. That's life. It's comfortably uncomfortable. That's it. Right? But tomorrow, when you wake up at 11, you got to remember that today you woke up at 7. Right? And the next day you woke up at 1, you have to remember that today you showed up, and it's not for me, it's for you. And I want you to really think why. And by the end of today, we're all going to ask Betty that question again. Why are you here? Right? And I want each one of you to think a little bit about it. You all had a choice today. All of us have a choice. We often say we don't, by the way. You know, I had to do it. I had to support Giovanna and Lucky. I had to support Hope4Life. That is not why you're here today. I wanted you to understand why you're here today. You know, when I got married, there's this moment that the Reverend said something to me that has stayed with me, and I wanted to share with you before I invite you both, Giovanna and Lucky, up. He said, look around this room. He said, in your lifetime, this combination of people will never be in this room again in the same way. So look around. This combination will never. We might join again. We might meet again. We might all meet in different ways. But in this combination, sitting exactly where you were, it's never going to happen again. And because it's never going to happen again, there is a why we're here. And I wanted you to identify your why, because if you can get to that why, I can get you moved. I can get you to the strategist. And then guess what? You're going to have to run that marathon because it's the marathon of your life. There's no finish line. But you can run it with less stress, less anxiety, less pain. And that's why we're here today. So strategies that got me out of poverty into here. They're not easy. They are like building a six-pack. We're going to train your brain. I'm going to teach you them at a high order. And then if you want to double down on them, my book has all the steps. It has worksheets and all those things. But I promise that you walk out with at least the basic tools to be able to build what I believe to be a bold life. Now, before we go there, what is a bold life anyhow? Why did I call this book Bold Move?
Regulated. You need to be brave.
You need to be brave. What?
Be yourself.
Be authentic, being yourself.
Makes a statement.
Makes a statement. How so?
When
like taking a risk.
So being bold is taking a risk. Okay. Any other definitions of being bold? Uh-huh.
You might not see yourself as bold, but other people see you as bold for your actions that you take.
So you might not see yourself as bold, but others may see you as bold, right?
Being counterintuitive, especially in a belief.
Can we wait for the microphone to get there so people can hear?
Being counterintuitive and perhaps a belief that you've had, that you just go against that belief, just almost like an experiment to see what happens based on what you have come to know now as being the way. Like what you bring today is great, but if we don't take the move to actually put it into practice, it's not going to work.
Yep. Okay. So being able to go against your instinct. One more there and one here. Hold a second.
I just thought about this because I've been saying this to my kids my whole life, and for me, being bold, and I try to live by it, but I fall short. Being bold is if you don't stand up for something, you're going to fall for anything.
Mm-hmm. Being bold means if you don't stand up for something, you're going to fall for something. I can repeat it, Jovan. I can repeat it. Go ahead.
Being bold means.
It's okay. I can repeat what you're saying.
Being bold, being brave.
Being bold means being brave.
It's a chosen life versus a reactionary life.
Can you say that again, the first part?
It's a chosen life versus
A
reactionary life.
It's approach instead of reacting. That's fantastic. So as we embark on creating a bold life for each one of you, my invitation for you all is that being bold is not being fearless. I'm going to say that again. Being bold is not being fearless. We often imagine that being bold is that person here, right? That somehow I have it all and I'm not fearful. That is not the case. Being bold is living a values-driven life. Being bold is taking a step towards what matters the most to you, and it's your own bold move. So as you walk out of here today, I want you to think about your own bold move, not what you imagine the world believes should be bold. Right? Because that's sometimes being bold is saying no to going out. Sometimes being bold is taking a nap. Sometimes, I mean it. Like for me, some of the boldest moments is when I'm pushing, and then I'm like, what's my bold move? I'm going to take a nap. Right? Taking a nap sometimes is my bold move. And so let's start with the first skill, shift. Actually, before we go there, we're clear on avoidance. For an avoidance, we need to use strategies. The strategies are designed to match what I taught you all as I call the TAB cycle, thoughts, emotions, and behavior cycle. A situation happens, I walk in my house, my husband gives me a look. Oh my God, he's mad at me, I get anxious, I avoid by cooking. Connecting our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, okay? Using the TAB cycle as a strategy is how I create a pause. We cannot change our lives, we cannot create a bold life if we don't pause first, right? So we all talk about a pause a lot, and it's important to pause, but here's the hack. By writing down your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, you are creating a pause by activating your prefrontal cortex. What is the prefrontal cortex? Decision, thinking brain, logic, right? It's the command center of our brain. It's our thinking brain, right? The thinking brain is the one that organizes, plans, executes. Now, I taught you guys this already, and you all knew this. When you're on fight, flight, or freeze, can you think straight? No. But you need that thinking to be able to change our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors, don't we? So that's why we write down our TAB cycle. I still do this. If I'm really, really anxious, I'll pull up a piece of paper and I'll go, this happened, what I'm saying to myself, how I'm feeling, what do I want to do? And as you do this, you slow down the brain, you bring on your prefrontal cortex back on, and then you have to use strategies, right? Just pausing doesn't do everything, but without a pause, we can't do anything. If you're stuck on your thinking, I'm going to teach you to shift. If you're stuck on your behavior, I'm going to teach you to approach. And if you're plain old stuck on your emotions and your life, we are going to align. With me? All right. Shift. Shift is designed to change the way we talk to ourselves. How many of you have said things to yourself like, I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. If I try, I'm going to fail. There's no way that I'm actually ever going to be successful. No one is going to ever love me. I'm unlovable. The reality is we talk to ourselves in a pretty negative way. Now, Do you ever say that to your friends? You wake up and say, hey, you're looking really ugly today. You know, you really got to change. You know, that outfit there, no, not so good. You really got to up your game. And you know that report, it sucks. It's horrible. Do we ever do that? Every day, to ourselves. But do you do that to your best friend? Do you ever talk to your best friends the way you talk to ourselves? Would you have any friends if you talk to them the way you talk to yourself? I hope not. Because the reality is we don't talk to our friends the way we talk to ourselves. How come? How come? Because we wouldn't have any. But how come? Why is it? Slow it down, everybody. Slow it down. Well with me? Why is it? So we're talking about shift. And I know we are all excited. And we are all avoiding by talking to each other, by the way, so we don't listen how to shift. Just saying, just saying. It gets to skills and it gets uncomfortable in the room. Because I just called out a bunch of the narratives in each one of your brains. When I said things like, I'm unlovable, I'm worthless, I'm stupid, I can't do this, the room got really loud. Did you notice that? That's us avoiding. Because the reality is we have a narrative in our brain. A narrative that comes from an upbringing that's been reinforced. Why is it that we keep saying to ourselves, I'm stupid? For me, I'll share mine, and then I'll ask you guys a question. Growing up poor with a lot of trauma, I came with the conclusion, today as a psychologist, not as a kid, that I am not enough. Now, no matter what I did in the world, I was trying to prove I was enough. I'm going to publish 9 papers. I'm going to get to Harvard. Then I'm going to become assistant professor, instructor, assistant, associate professor, full professor. And my brain would still scream, I'm not enough. Didn't matter what I did. It wasn't enough. And the reason it wasn't enough is for one reason only. Our brain does not like dissonance. Remember the word I said earlier? Dissonance. Dissonance means when two things don't match. That's simple as that. I'm not enough. I'm associate professor at Harvard Medical School. Does that equation close? No. Does it close for anybody? No. It only closes in my brain because my brain links those two things by saying, well, if I was enough, I'd already be full professor, so associate professor. Clearly not good enough. Clearly not enough. I get a paper accepted. Paper accepted. Not enough. Does that close for you guys? No. In my brain, it only got accepted because the co-authors are smart. I'm not smart enough. This is what I call the pretzel in the brain. We all pretzel information as they come in to minimize our own discomfort. That's what we do. Right? We try to create narratives to maintain our views of the world. Those views of the world are lenses. Think about them as lenses. They are filtering information all the time. And they do to make us feel comfortable. So we distort information so that we can stay comfortable. Makes sense. We're biologically wired to avoid discomfort. Right? The problem is we are not facing reality, and we're maintaining distorted views of ourselves, which is causing what? Dissonance and a lot of pain. Right? So the first step in shifting as a strategy is to first isolate a thought that we are saying to ourselves. So I want all of you to think about in the past week and anchor yourself in a situation that made you really uncomfortable. Okay? Can everybody think of a situation? I'll ask 1 or 2 volunteers. Then I want to ask yourself, what am I saying to myself? Okay? I'll give my example because I'll walk through mine and then I'll ask you. Last week, I had this incredible opportunity of recording a course with a very famous celebrity, name I can't say yet. And I was on my way to record with this celebrity. Okay, this is my brain. He's going to laugh at me. Why does he think he wants me to interview him? Who am I to sit across from the celebrity? There's no way I can do this. And how did I feel? Very anxious, very small. Right? What did my heart do? Do you remember your cartoon that you said in the beginning? I was in 2 doubles, so it was like in the back of that room, right? Because my brain was trying to maintain I'm not enough, and I'm enough, not enough, is good if when I say, yeah, I'm bad, I can't, the celebrity's not going to think I'm important enough. Those thoughts maintain my belief of not being enough. Okay. Is anybody anchored on one situation and can share one thought that they've been saying to themselves? Please. Gigi.
the situation is a good friend of mine lied to me, and I discovered that what I feel is what I always say: I can't trust anyone, and it led me to feel I am very alone, very lonely.
Situation, my friend lied to me. It confirmed her belief. No one is trustworthy, made her feel alone. And what did you do as a result?
Everything. I had a combo.
Okay.
I got angry. I cried a lot. I want to run away.
Yeah.
And I even thought, I even had thoughts of like, it's an old thought of, I shouldn't be alive.
I shouldn't be alive.
Which comes from the womb.
Absolutely. So a situation as small as a friend lying to us, we all have had that experience. For her, goes, no one is trustworthy. Why am I even here? Right? No one is trustworthy. Now, Gigi, imagine that your best friend was in the same scenario. Okay, the same scenario. And she was lied to. And she came to you and said, see, no one in the entire world is trustworthy. What would you say to your friend in that moment?
You're right.
That's good.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's good.
But
Stay with
guess
it.
what? It's okay.
Wait. Slow down first. You're right.
But that's today. 2 days ago, I'm like, let's run away.
Okay. You'd say to your best friend, you're right. Okay. And then you'd say what?
It's going to be okay.
How come? What does that
Because
mean, it's going to be okay?
No one's going to die.
I don't know about that.
Well.
No. I wasn't joking, though. For you, that led to feelings of not wanting to be alive. So it could be a deep, deep wound. So I wasn't actually joking.